Alright, I finally got my stuff set up. Finally doing another review. I kind of fell off the map for a little while there. I got pneumonia and then couldn't really do any car reviews for a minute. So you have to hold the start button on this. Yep. I've got the Hellcat today, the 2016 Dodge Challenger Hellcat. And I've just got to say real quick, this has been a dream vehicle of mine officially for a couple years. About 2.5 years ago, I was working at a Dodge dealership as a service advisor, and they had a red 6-speed Hellcat on the lot, which they could not get rid of, and I got to move it once into the detail bay to get cleaned up, and that was the only time I had driven a Hellcat. And it happened to be red, same as this one, and manual. So yeah, let's get on the road here. I've been driving this car maybe 60 miles or so far. I had to go pretty far out of the way to go get it, but well worth it. I've had some crazy highway adventures already. Oh man, some serious highway shenanigans. Basically, there was an E60 M5 which I was trying to play with, and he wasn't having it. But then I found a second E60 M5, enthusiast driven, and oh man, we had some fun on the highway. Okay, so I finally got my navigation figured out. So this car, it is the 6-speed manual version, and that's the number one thing I was curious about, if the manual transmission is a good choice with this car. And I did a lot of research, and you can find just about as many people saying it's good as you can saying it's bad compared to the ZF8 speed. And my verdict so far, unfortunately, I wish it had the ZF8 speed. I'd be having a little bit better time, just for a few reasons. This car has an insanely stiff clutch pedal. I don't remember it being that stiff on the car that I drove at the dealership back in the day. This car is 51,000 miles on it, about to hit 52,000 today. And as far as I know, it's totally stock. It certainly seems to be stock. I certainly don't think it has an upgraded clutch on it. But yeah, it's strange how stiff it is. Just stiffer than anything I remember. I do daily drive a Nissan Juke, so I'm used to a really light clutch. But this is just crazy. When first got in, I had to actually make sure I was hitting the clutch pedal after all, because it was so damn hard to press. But
take the next line onto Lake Wolford Road.
This car has extremely tall gearing. I still haven't fully tested it out in first, but I think it goes like 68 miles per hour in first gear. Ooh, that was weird. Could have sworn I was in second.
Continue on Lake Wolford Road for 6 miles.
Basically, I think any car, no matter how powerful, can be great with a manual transmission, but the clutch and the shifter and everything, they have to all work together. So I've got a Tesla Model 3 behind me. It looks like he's trying to go fast. I better get it together here. So I'm in third gear. Second is easily the better choice. Turn the AC down. So I was wide open in second there, and it didn't have any spin whatsoever, but I don't think it was giving me all the power either. So I'm not going to shut off traction control. No need to tempt fate. But yeah, I was expecting a lot more craziness with this car. It's so civilized. I mean, it's just the traction control, I'm sure, causing that. But got some annoying traffic over here. Hopefully it's not too bad. Second gear. The car handles fine. You can tell it weighs about 4,500 pounds, and it handles fine though. It's not bad. The steering feel is quite numb, but no big deal. Feels okay. It's not very heavy, pretty light steering. Aside from the clutch and the transmission, this thing's very easy to drive. I've been getting a grind into fifth gear, and I'm having flashbacks to the Honda Civic Type R, which was grinding every gear. So I've been avoiding fifth gear, actually. Even if you're gentle, it might, and even if you rev match perfectly, it seems like it wants to grind for some reason, so that sucks. But the gearing is so tall, you don't need fifth gear at all. So yeah, I was neck and neck with an E60 M5 on the highway, but I stayed in fourth gear and I had the AC on. So overall, I think this would pull on an E60 at least up to a certain point. It certainly should. But that was an amazingly fun experience. The E60 M5 continues to be my dream car, basically. One of these days I'll sensibly get one. So beautiful day going up this canyon here. I was pretty nervous to rent this car, actually. I knew the F10 M5 that I drove had comparable power levels, and overall that car does seem faster than this. But I was just worried because this is a stereotypical car to potentially hurt yourself with the skinny rear tires, the 275s, and the insane horsepower and torque and manual transmission to top it off. And I'm the type of guy to potentially push things beyond their limit. Any cops? Fourth gear. The overall feel of the transmission, unfortunately, it's not bad, but it's not great. Fairly hard to tell what gear you're in, and sometimes hard to get into gear. But you can also tell it's a very heavy-duty unit, and can definitely hold a lot of power, and it feels solid. Just it's not the easiest transmission to shift overall. The steering wheel and the shifter both have this extreme stitching. The stitches just stick out a lot and provide you with some extra grip, I guess. It's almost a bit much on both of them, but if I had this car, my hands would get calloused and I'd get used to it, I guess. But Yeah, very extreme stitching, so you can hold on to this little leather-covered cue ball, 8-ball, whatever the hell you call these shifters, the circular, the spherical shifter. I wasn't expecting the supercharger noises to be so much fun. It really makes a lot of cool noises anytime you're on the throttle. You can just, it just comes on and goes off. I guess it engages and disengages. There was a Sentra Nismo back there, by the way. Third gear. Hardly any RPMs there, but the torque is so much fun to enjoy at all times, obviously. This is my first time driving a legit supercharged car. I've driven supercharged Audis around, but this is the real deal. The positive displacement supercharger of a large size. And of course it's feeding a 6.2 pushrod V8, which is awesome. The instant torque from the blower really is fantastic, and I see why people love supercharged cars so much. It's not as dramatic as a turbo, waiting for it to build up, but the noises really are fun. You can hear it a little better at low speeds. So this car has some creaks and rattles. It's to be expected from a car where they focus the development on the drivetrain, the powertrain, and rightfully so. But yeah, there's some vibrating noises coming from the center console area. Yeah, but I mean, it's not too bad. I'd still enjoy one of these cars. Overall, I think the Charger Hellcat is more my style, since I'd go for the ZF8 speed, and having the 4 doors is a lot of fun in a fast car. But this thing is a very mean looking car. It's got these tiny little mirrors. The mirrors almost seem comical because it's a fairly large, imposing car, but it's got these cute little mirrors on it. Damn, so much traffic up here today. But I'll let this thing rip soon enough. And of course, it's not really made for canyon carving. I'm testing the car's touring abilities right now. And speaking of which, nice and quiet in here. Pretty impressive sound levels. Not as good as a real luxury car, but pretty close. And it allows you to hear the supercharger and hear the exhaust. The exhaust noise is just right. No real cracking and popping. I know there's a valve on these things somewhere, but I shouldn't have to do anything with that, should I? Street. So I'm looking at the power screen here. I noticed there was an SRT button, and yeah, it says 700 plus horsepower.
Turn right onto Paradise Mountain Road.
The traction and the suspension are in street mode. Sounds good. So that's the default setting. Oh, track. Let's go for that. So I've got it in track mode now. The traction control and the suspension are both in track mode. Oh, here's my little intersection that I like with the fruit stand. So here we go. First gear. Wow. Not bad. Something about the really tall gearing though, and the really difficult clutch, it kind of takes away from what I was expecting the experience to be. I think they should gear it a little bit lower in the first few gears. Everyone online says that the clutch is easy to use, and like I said, I didn't remember it being difficult on the other one I drove, so I almost suspect there's like I don't know, master cylinder wear or throw-out bearing something. Oh man, stupid truck in my way. This sucks. So, what was I gonna say? The view out the hood of this car is spectacular. You've got the little hood vent right in front of you, and the awesome bulge of the hood scoop right there as well. And then you can just see the other vent on the other side. And people say how big these cars are, and that's sort of true, but it doesn't feel that big to me. It feels pretty normal. Yeah, so I'm going full throttle in second gear, and I was expecting wheel spin doing something like that before I drove this car. I was expecting crazy torque breaking the tires loose, but maybe that's part of the reason the gearing is so high, to give you some hope for traction. It definitely spins them in first gear. I've definitely busted the rear end loose through corners a couple times already, and that's really fun. And the traction control makes it really easy. Can you hear that blower noise? And then it disengages the clutch, and then you get on the gas and it sounds so cool. Turbo noise might be more fun overall, but blower noise is really entertaining as well. And with the suspension in track mode, I do feel these bumps a little more, I think. And yeah, car doesn't really have much body roll. Hardly any at all, at least in track mode. What if I go back into street mode with the suspension? Oh yeah, let me try that again. Oh yeah, a lot more roll, or it seems to have more roll, at least when I have it in street mode. Oh, there he goes, see ya. Now, what gear am I possibly in? You just get lost in a sea of gears with this car. So here's second gear. There's a little traction loss over the bumps. Am I in second? The gearing is so tall in this car, I get legitimately confused if can't tell if I'm in second or fourth. It has so much torque in fourth that you would hardly know it. Oh yeah. A little crazy. I'm gonna keep it in street. I don't need to drift that much. That was sick though. Careful. You can feel the weight in braking. You can tell it's a heavy car when you slam the brakes on. But the brakes do well. They have a nice feel to them. Not too stiff, not too light. I'm sure you could light these things on fire though if you're not careful. This car is so fast. Alright, I'm over here at Hellhole Canyon Preserve, my spot that I go to. Oh man, I can't go up there. That's annoying. Alright, so I took some photos at my spot here, did my thing. So I like to mention the interior a little bit at these points. So overall, not a bad interior. That's usually the number one thing that people criticize on this car, but overall it's a decent effort. It's got some fairly low quality materials around here, but I think this is more of a base model Hellcat if I had to guess. It's got the the textured plastic on this gigantic dash that is like the biggest dash I've ever seen besides maybe a Civic, and it continues over on the door sills. And then it has this soft leather-like material in the touch zones over here. I do have to say the switches feel like the same thing out of like a Dodge Caliber or something. They feel their typical Chrysler parts bin, but that's fine. I'm not really complaining. The only real complaint I have on that front is that the damn signal, the signal lever. It's got a lot of play to it. It feels just terrible. It feels exactly like you would find in a lower end Dodge product, and considering how often someone uses that, It's kind of an important driver input, but not a huge deal. Of course, you're buying this car mostly for the engine and etc. It's got all this wonderful performance data over here, more than I would even have time to look at. It does all sorts of cool stuff. And yeah, it's got this like fake machined looking surface here, which looks good overall. This interior is kind of strange. You keep expecting there to be somewhere to put your phone, but there's not. There's literally nowhere logical to put a smartphone. You can't put it in the cup holders very well. It just doesn't want to stay. But there is a nice cavernous center console storage area here, so I'm making use of that. But yeah, let's get out of here. Let's get moving. I set the parking brake. Hand parking brake, foot parking brake with this car. Poing. I should have muffled that. So let's mess around a little bit. This is a blind hill, so I'll be careful with a big pothole on the right side. Yep, I love horsepower. This thing has so much torque, you don't want to rev it out too much. You can, but you don't even feel the desire. Now, when you do rev it out, that's when you can tell it's a real monster. Ooh, almost hit a rabbit. Yeah, when you're just taking it easy, not getting into the power, this car handles fine, and it's very predictable and whatever. It's easy enough to drive. The only thing difficult about it is the clutch pedal, and the shifter overall isn't super beginner friendly. Second gear. Ooh, a lot of rabbits on the road. Yeah. Yeah, the supercharger whine and then the immediate power is freaking awesome. Yeah, this giant supercharger gives the car a character of its own. I'm just not used to Roots type superchargers or whatever it is. And the noises that they make, it's a lot of fun. I never fully understood what people meant when they said, you can feel the weight in braking. Everyone says that about a heavy car. And with this car, I truly can feel that it weighs a shitload when I slam on the brakes. Because it's got some really nice Brembo brakes on there of a large size. And they do a great job, but yeah, you can just tell there's a lot of weight moving with this car at a high rate of speed. Third gear, it sort of lost a little traction as I came over that rise in the turn. That's a lot of fun. You could just leave this in third and power out of corners all day. Although the gearing truly is tall as hell, so second gear after all. Yeah. Look at that view. Oh yeah. Yeah, this car is easy enough to control. Feels nice. Yep. Not bad. I'm going to take it easy starting now. Oop, overrev. Yeah, this car gets through a corner just fine. You can't really criticize it. Here's my spot where I always punch it. Carefully. First gear will do it. Well, I'm having that muscle car experience, and overall I like it a lot. In the end, I'm more of a German car kind of guy, but this is great. The sound of this car is amazing. The blower whine up front, and then the awesome 6.2 liter pushrod V8 noises out the back. I love pushrod engines, and they sound so mean. Oh. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. It feels like a Tesla because as fast as you can press the accelerator pedal, it starts to accelerate with zero lag. I don't mind that. Yeah, the lack of lag is incredible. Superchargers are a great thing. This much power with a manual transmission, you're really encouraged to get up to some high speeds quickly, especially with the rear-wheel drive. And yeah, my philosophy is to get up to an illegal speed, but then quickly get on the brakes and pretend it didn't happen. And so far, so good. Even when I'm going slow, I can enjoy the disengaging and the re-engaging of the supercharger. It's so much fun to listen to. I always knew that superchargers had a clutch, but I just never really thought about the fact that it goes silent when you let off the gas, and then starts whining again right when you get on the gas. See? That whine is too much fun. Let's do second gear here. Rev matching becomes unintuitive because the gearing is so high. It's hard to get it right with this car. Yeah, the more I've gotten to know this car, the more I like it. And it's got a lot of character. And the power is pretty humbling. The power is just wonderfully usable with this car, and for having so much horsepower and torque, it's just easy to drive. And besides first gear, it doesn't spin the tires that much. I guess the power levels are pretty damn similar between this and the tuned F10 M5, but it's just such a different experience because of the 6-speed manual, obviously. What I need to do now is drive the manual transmission F10 M5 and review one of those, see what that's all about, because I think I wouldn't have some of the gripes that I do about this car. As everyone has said, the seats in this car, they're a little wider than a typical like sports car seat, but the bolsters are big enough and the seats hold you quite well with just a tiny bit of wiggle room for a slightly larger individual perhaps. And it's a nice supportive seat. All right, there we go. All right, let's give this thing a SAM score, shall we? Category, powertrain. Transmission. This transmission is solid, but it resists fast shifting, and this one was grinding 5th gear. 5 out of 10. Output. With 707 horsepower from the factory, this engine is a dream come true. 10. Personality. The blower noise and pushrod noises from this beast are absolutely incredible. 9. Perceived reliability. Though the owner says it burns oil, these engines seem ultra stout even with mods. 9. Category, chassis. Capability. This car does everything pretty well, but weighs 4,500 pounds and is basically just a shell for the engine. 6. Fun. A large, rear-wheel drive car is quite fun, especially with tons of power. 8. Safety. Unfortunately, this car is built on an ancient Mercedes platform and is one of the last modern cars to fail the IIHS small offset frontal crash test. A real shame. 6. Driver inputs. The steering wheel has wonderful 8 and 4 bumps,
and the shifter gets warm from the transmission heat, which I love. But numb steering, shifting issues, and a crappy turn signal lever get this car a 7. Category, value, maintenance. Aside from tires and possibly oil, this car shouldn't need much to keep going. It also got 12.5 miles per gallon, 9 out of 10. Cost of entry. These cars have always been an amazing horsepower per dollar proposition, and used prices continue to fall, 10. Long term. Though it's not the rarest version Hellcat, and is widely produced, these fast and mysterious cars will always be loved, 8. Fit and finish. This interior is of decent quality, but did have some vibrations and rattling going on. A few things do feel cheap, 5. Category, styling, innovation. These cars resurrected a badass retro style and make it work so well, 9 out of 10. Longevity. With such unique styling, I think these cars will remain fairly timeless somehow and always look good, 9. Wow factor. These cars are common in California, but the right people do get excited over an actual Hellcat, 7. Personality. There's no questioning this car or what it wants to do, 10. That all adds up to a final score of 127. Pretty darn good. Thank you for watching and happy motoring.